Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning. So, as you can see today, we are going to see the Renaissance. So, the Renaissance is one of the biggest culture movement in history between 15th and 17th centuries. The Renaissance happened in literature, music, art, architecture, and all kinds of intelligence. So let's see how it begins first. So we learned the Middle Age last week, right? So during the Middle Ages, the church had taught that mankind was not worthless in the eyes of God. So this era is called Dark Ages, and all kinds of the culture and the art were oppressed by the church. And artists were considered skilled crafts workers. So for the resistance of the Middle Ages, the Renaissance came into the world. And the word Renaissance means rebirth, and it refers to the revival of interest in ancient Greek and Rome culture. That is one of the key characteristics of this period. Renaissance humanists believed in the pursuit of knowledge for its own sake. So there are many of artistic techniques developed in the by the Renaissance masters. So the first one is perspective, so which is creating an implied space on the two-dimensional surface. And chiaroscuro, which is modeling mass drawing technique based on lightness and darkness. And the third one is close observation of nature. And the fourth one is the study of anatomy and the theories of beauty and proportion. So these are all the developed during this period, Renaissance. So these also established painting, sculpture, mathematics, and artists were no longer mere craft workers. So the Renaissance arose in Italy here. So everyone, can you guess why the Renaissance began in Italy? Why was the Renaissance in Italy the most powerful? Can you guess the reasons? No one guess?
Is it because of Rome?
Can you say again? Did you just said because of the Rome?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. That is the one of the big reason. Very good, Uche. What else, everyone? Okay, let's see the reasons. So the first reason is that Italy was the powerful city-state which was engaged in extensive trade and banking had developed. So their economic system was stable through history. most of culture were flourished when they had a stabilization of economy. And the second reason is the church. The church in Italy was an important patron of the arts. So it was centered in Italy as well. And the last reason is, like we just said, the ancient Rome. So Italian had long lived in the ruins of ancient Rome, and they viewed themselves as the direct descendants of the citizens of the earlier. So these three factors made that the early and high Renaissance are developed in Italy. So now we will see the great masters of the Renaissance. So there are three masters. Can you remember these three masters? Who's the Renaissance master, everyone? No one remember? Really?
It's Raphael,
Oh,
Leonardo,
uh-huh.
Leonardo da Vinci,
Yeah.
and Michelangelo.
Yes.
Very good. Very good. Yes. So Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo and Raphael. So let's see the first master, Leonardo da Vinci first. Leonardo da Vinci was a painter, a sculptor, poet, architect, engineer, scientist, musician, and all-round intellectual. Leonardo da Vinci is the artist who most embodies the term Renaissance man, and many people consider him to have been the greatest genius who ever lived. He was possessed of a brilliant and inquiring mind that accepted no limits. And he was very interested in human body, like skeleton, muscles, organs, etc. He also anatomized dead bodies to study skeletal system, muscle, and even organs and pregnancy. So this is the last Supper by Leonardo da Vinci, and he depicted the consternation that occurred among the 12 apostles when Jesus announced that one of them would betray him. Leonardo da Vinci used perspective technique to show an implied space on the two-dimensional surface on this painting. So everyone, what kind of perspective did Leonardo da Vinci use in this painting? What kind of perspective, everyone?
3D?
Yes. Leonardo da Vinci, make the implied 3D space on the two-dimensional surface. Very good. But we learned linear perspective and atmospheric perspective and foreshortening. Which one he used for this painting?
Linear perspective.
Very good. Yes, there we go. So in this painting, he used 1-point linear perspective with vanishing point on the center of the implied space. And this is a good perspective technique for compacting many objects in a limited space. Very good. These are sketches to study one-point linear perspective by Leonardo da Vinci as well. And this is a drawing to show one-point perspective with the human body proportion. And let's see the most famous painting in the world, Mona Lisa. So everyone look at this again. Can you guess what kind of implied space he used in this painting again? There are three options. One is linear perspective, and the other one is the foreshortening, and the last one is atmospheric perspective. Which one he used? No one guess? So he used atmospheric perspective to show the distance by the saturation. And everyone, can you guess why this painting is so famous and why it is historically important? Because the painting was one of the first portraits to depict the cedar in front of an imaginary landscape. And Leonardo da Vinci was one of the first painters who used the aerial or atmospheric perspective here. And behind her, a vast landscape recedes to the icy mountains. And winding path here, and a distant bridge give only the slightest indications of a human presence. Leonardo has chosen to place the horizon line not at the neck, not here, but on a level with the eyes. Thus, linking the figure with the landscape and emphasizing the mysterious nature of the painting. And let's move on to the next master of the Renaissance, Michelangelo. Michelangelo is beyond legend. His name means Archangel Michael, and he began serious work as an artist at the age of 13 and did not stop until that claimed him 76 years later. His equal may never be seen again. And for only a particular time and place could have bred the genius of Michelangelo. Michelangelo was Leonardo da Vinci's rival, and he began his career in Florence, but also worked in Rome. So Michelangelo had established his reputation as a sculptor by the age of 25. The David statue is not a simple restatement of Greek art. He studied human anatomy and had dissected corpses. He translated this knowledge into a figure like this that seems to be made of muscle and flesh and bone, though all in marble. Truly amazing sculpture. So Michelangelo embarked on the masterpiece that has become his best-known work, the ceiling fresco of the Sistine Chapel in the Vatican in Rome. So he had been called to Rome by Pope Julius II, who wanted the artist to design his tomb, a large monument with numerous sculptures and paintings. And it has lots of holy stories. So let me share a video to see the painting close.
Which has tremendous importance to Catholicism. This is where the Pope will lead Mass, but perhaps most famously, this is the room that the College of Cardinals uses to decide the next Pope.
And every surface of this space is decorated, from the beautiful mosaics on the floor. The walls are painted with frescoes by early Renaissance artists. The wall.
So everyone, look at this amazing paintings in the Vatican. So all these paintings are made by Michelangelo. Can you believe it? This is just literally crazy, right?
Wall behind the altar was painted by Michelangelo later in his life, and then of course the ceiling.
And everybody is looking up. Their necks are craned, and of course it's magnificent. We're here in the late afternoon.
See here, the columns with the sculptures are also painting. These are not the real sculpture. So he had the, it's just incredible, technical painting.
On a day in early July, the light is diffuse and it makes those frescoed figures feel so dimensional. They feel like sculpture.
And you can imagine what it was like when this was unveiled in 1512, after Michelangelo had worked on it for years, how different, how revolutionary Michelangelo's figures seemed.
Well, he was first and foremost a sculptor. And it wasn't actually until a relatively recent cleaning that we knew his brilliance as a colorist. But for him, line and drawing and the act of carving figures out of paint was primary. And you have this extraordinary ability to render both strength and elegance simultaneously.
They have a massiveness and a presence that is charismatic, but there's also a sense of elegance and ideal beauty. So let's describe what we're looking at.
Okay, probably the most important are the series of 9 scenes that move across the central panels.
And those are framed by a painted architectural framework that looks real. It doesn't look like paint. And we start with the creation of the world, God separating light from darkness.
I love that scene. This primordial God, light on one side of his body and the darkness of night on the other. This initial separation and division to create order in the universe.
And then we move through to the creation of Adam, the creation of Eve.
Well, the separation of the sexes.
And the creation of God's most perfect creature, human beings. And then the fall of human beings.
In a sense, the separation of good and evil.
Man and woman disobeying God, causing the expulsion of Adam and Eve from the Garden of Eden. And then the far end, by the entrance, we see the scenes of Noah.
So these are all scenes from the first book of the Bible, from the book of Genesis. And it's so interesting because, of course, this is a Catholic church, and yet we don't see images of Christ. But these Old Testament scenes lay the foundation for the coming of Christ.
And
All right. Isn't it amazing, everyone?
Beautiful.
Yes, it's beautiful. So, the ceiling frescoes we just saw were an immediate success, and Michelangelo continued as papal favors. Pope Paul III encouraged the sculptor to work as an architect this time. In 1546, Paul named Michelangelo the official architect of the new St. Peter's, one of the four most important churches in Rome. So by the time he began work on the project, Michelangelo was an old man, well into his 70s, and physically tired, but his creative vigor was undiminished. Michelangelo, unfortunately, did not live to see his church finished. The magnificent central dome, this was complete after his death by another architect. So there is a video to show the beautiful church in Muderum. So please watch it to see the inside and the outside of the church in detail. Now let's move on to the last Renaissance master, Raphael. So he was a slightly younger rival of Michelangelo. And his work in admired for its clarity of form, and ease of composition, and visual achievement of the Neoplatonic ideal of human grandeur. So looks familiar with us, right? Yeah. This is Raphael's the most famous painting, The School of Athens. So this painting is in the new St. Peter's Church, which was the Michelangelo's last work we just saw. So the nearly every great Greek philosopher is present in this work, including the two main subjects located at the fresco's central vanishing point, Plato and his student Aristotle. Some of the ancient philosophers resemble Raphael's contemporaries. In one of his earliest works, Raphael painted three of the Graces from classical mythology. And this painting is best known for the two winged angels at the very bottom of this composition. The Sistine Madonna is an oil painting that was commissioned in 1512 by Pope Julius II for the Church of San Sisto in Piacenza. And on its completion in 1512, this rendering of Pope Julius II was unlike any previous papal portrait. So usually popes were painted frontally or kneeling in profile. However, the Pope was not frontally and not in profile. Also, exceptional was the facial expression, showing the subject lost in thought. And this oil painting was produced in 1505 in Venice, Madonna del Prado. and it exemplifies a religious theme. It depicts Mother Mary with Jesus Christ and John the Baptist. In this painting, Mary is guarding the two lovely children. Compared to the previous two masters, Raphael's paintings are very soft and smooth, and it makes viewers feel comfortable to see. And scholars generally date an end of the High Renaissance in Italy to the death of Raphael in 1520. The various artistic trends that emerged, one of that has interested art historians most is known as Mannerism. So the late Renaissance in Italy is called Mannerism. The word Mannerism comes from the Italian maniera, meaning style or stylishness, and it was originally used to suggest that these painters practiced an art of grace and sophistication. So later critics characterized Mannerism as a decadent reaction against the order and balance of the High Renaissance. So today, most scholars agree that Mannerism actually grew out of possibilities suggested by the work of High Renaissance artists, especially Michelangelo, whose influence on the next generation was enormous. So look at the left images. So these are Michelangelo's ceiling painting from the Sistine Chapel in Vatican. So compared to other two masters, Michelangelo's painting style is a little bit more exaggerated. And now let's look at the right painting. So this is Mannerism painting from the late Renaissance. It's pretty much persuasive that Mannerism grew out of Michelangelo's style, right? So compared to the art that came before it, works in the late phase of the Renaissance are often depicted in Mannerism, which tends to feature compositions that are more chaotic, emphasize movement, and possesses greater emotional intensity. So the successes of the High Renaissance could not be rivaled. Leonardo, Raphael, and Michelangelo were thought to have achieved perfection in the arts. And artists were faced with the predicament of where to go from there. In reaction, instead of harmony, many artworks stressed dissonance, distortion, and disproportion were intentionally used to emphasize certain anatomical features and themes. So rather than mathematically precise depictions, an artist created ambiguous spaces with multiple focal points. And the Renaissance became widespread in North Europe. So there is a video about the Renaissance in the North Europe in Modurum. So please watch it to see diverse and beautiful Renaissance work of art. So I hope you enjoy to see the Renaissance mastered beautiful works through this chapter. And now let's see today's discussion related to this chapter. So this is today's topic. Everyone, please go to the discussion 11.1 after this meeting and complete this discussion. So now we just learned the Renaissance masters, Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Raphael. And compare these three masters' work styles and write which artist work preference. So when you scroll down, you will see the three masters' works video links. So please watch them all first. So these, the Leonardo da Vinci's videos and Michelangelo's work videos and the Raphael's work videos. Watch them all and please write which artist is your preference and please compare these three masters' work styles. Any question, everyone, about this discussion?